Hello and welcome back to my small little library. Today I want to talk about my journey into the romance genre and kind of talk a little bit about why I used to be of the opinion that I actually really dislike romance in books and what changed my opinion, how I got there, and then my so far like 2 month long foray into romance and all of the like a little bit of like what I read so far and what I learned about myself throughout this journey, because it has been a journey. let's say it like it is. I am reading more than I have ever read in a month, because one thing I learned, which we can start with, is that romance is a really quick read if you like read like pure romance books. And yeah, those can be read pretty quickly. They mostly flow really well. So I have read a lot in the past 2 months. But yeah, let's talk about my original stance of disliking romance, how I got to that stance, and yeah, why I was there to begin with even. The only real connection I had to romance in books was through reading like fantasy that had like romance in it, sci-fi that had romance in it, thrillers that had romance in it. So the only real points that I could make were from what romance is like in other genres. And I actually really dislike romance brought into books from other genres, mainly because I hate if you have like a really good like fantasy book and then there comes a relationship into the story that like derails the whole story. That is something I really dislike, and I always thought the reason was the romance in itself, that I just didn't like when people went all lovey-dovey in books. I now know that I just prefer a book to have one focus and go with that. I prefer fantasy to be purely fantasy, which is also the reason why I probably will never be a fan of romantasy. For example, because I like my genres to be on the more clearer side and not a combination of two genres. And because of that dislike of fantasy and romance mixing, and that being pretty much all I ever saw of romance, because I got the Illumicrate and the Fairy Loot, and a lot of times they had romantic fantasies in them that like were sold as like a fantasy book, but then had like a big part of the story would be the romance in addition to the fantasy, and or like the fantasy plot, whatever plot it was. And I just really disliked those books, and so I thought, you know what, I really don't like romance. I don't want to read it. It's really annoying to me. It always ruins the story for me. Also, in a lot of those like fantasy romance books, the relationship is there to create drama, which is something obviously in normal romance books that is also the case, but that is something we're coming to a little bit later. But yeah, obviously in a lot of those cases, these romances were used to create drama in the story and to bring the story in a certain direction. And I personally really dislike that. I hate relationships as drama points, as ways to throw the main plot off. I just really cannot handle that. And all of those like feelings I had about romance in other genres made me think I didn't like romance. I was like, you know what? Hate when I have couples in books. I really can't get into it. And so I was really staunchly set on not reading romance. The only exception was smut. I did read a couple of smut books here and there, but for the smut, like not for anything else in those books. And also they weren't really for the romance, you know? It was just for the spiciness. I didn't read them for anything else. I just really enjoy like a good smut novel, to be honest. And then the second point that made me not want to try romance was actually BookTok and BookTube, because most of the romance books that were shared on BookTube and BookTok were enemies to lovers, high drama books, a lot of like dislike to like, splitting up in the middle. It felt like a lot of toxicity. That was most of the romance I saw on the internet. And that really like made me not want to deal with it, because those are elements I do not enjoy in romance. And for me, it was like, oh, those are the romance books that are out there. You can either have like the full of drama, toxicity, enemies to lovers, or you have like the old people romance books. Like, that is pretty much all I've seen. Regency romance books, historical romance books, and really toxic enemies to lovers, dramatic romance books. And I enjoy neither of those. And that was something I knew straight from the beginning. For me, now that I read romance, it's definitely more about relaxing and the sweetness of it and all of that, which we're coming back to when I talk about what I'm reading in romance and what I'm actually enjoying. But I quickly realized all of the romance I've seen was not romance I would ever read. So combine that with the fact that I hated the romance I had in normal books, or like normal books and other genres, and then put the romance books that I was seeing online together with that, and I had a really negative opinion about romance, because all that I saw was stuff that I really did not enjoy, and I didn't want to buy books and try them out when I thought so negatively already of the genre. And then my library, they don't have a lot of romance, actually, so there was that part as well. So I couldn't easily lend the romance, because all of the like well-liked romance was always lent out. It was really hard to get it, and that is still the case. And I didn't want to spend the money on books that I most likely wouldn't enjoy, so I would rather buy books that I actually, knew that I would enjoy them. And so, yeah, that gave me, all in all, quite the negative opinion about romance. I was always, like, I'm never somebody who's like, oh, that is a dumb genre or something like that. That, never. I'm always like, I'm really glad you enjoy those books. I just don't, I think that is pretty important to differentiate. Like, I would never be like, oh, you like enemies to lovers? What a dumb thing. Like, no, you enjoy what you enjoy, and please read those books. But I feel like a lot of romance representation was pretty like on the side that I just don't like of romance. And so I had a pretty like skewed view of romance books. And then Heated Rivalry hit the streaming services, and that is actually the first time that my opinion really changed. For the weight of Heated Rivalry, because I didn't have this streaming service at the time, I watched Red, White, and Royal Blue, the movie. And I was pretty sure that I wouldn't like it, but I couldn't get Heated Rivalry, so I was like, okay, this is a book as well. Just try it and see if you like it. And I really, really enjoyed the movie, because it's actually pretty, like, there's drama, but it's more like outside drama and not as much from going from the characters. And the miscommunication that was there was pretty like doable for me. So I really enjoyed the movie. And after that, I actually went and got myself the streaming service to be able to watch Heated Rivalry, because I didn't want to be left out anymore. And also, there are so many attractive actors in that series. I just really had to see. And yeah, it became an obsession. For a minute there. I never knew the sports romance avalanche that is there. Like, if you start looking into sports romances, there are so many. I never knew actually that there were so many out there. But yeah, once I actually watched Heated Rivalry, I went and bought myself the book series, so I could read them all. And from there, I actually got recommended a lot of romances. And then Zach recommended me getting Kindle Unlimited, because it's one of the easiest ways to read a lot of romance and not have to pay for each individual book, which would obviously be a lot more expensive instead of just getting Kindle Unlimited. And so, as much as I do not enjoy supporting Amazon, I did went ahead and got myself Kindle Unlimited, just to be able to have like a short stint into the romance books, because I was under the impression I would find like 3-4 more, and then I was over it and realized, okay, those were like a fluke for me, and yeah, that was pretty much my thought process, and I have been stuck ever since. I actually realized that for me to like a romance, it has to be pretty specific. I don't enjoy obvious enemies to lovers. Like, if the people like actively hate each other in the beginning of the story, I don't like if they end up together. That is just something I can't get behind. Then I like my romance sweet. I don't like a lot of drama in my romance. And yeah, that is all I ever saw. And then I realized, there are a lot of romance books out there where the drama of the story comes from outside forces and not from the relationship. Like, I'm totally fine if you have like a meddling family member who's like against the people being gay, for example. Like, so far I've only read, like, I mostly read queer romance so far because that is what I enjoy, which I also realized thanks to Heated Rivalry. But yeah, I don't mind outside drama, but like, I hate drama that is like the couple splitting up or like really dumb miscommunication that, you as a reader are like, it makes no sense why you talk to each other that way, I can't stand that. I need sickly sweet romance, if you wanna go at it. Like, that is the genre I enjoy. Who would have thought? I never. Yeah, so also I want my romance to be mainly about the romance. I have read supernatural romance now, and I do enjoy it, but I want the main focus of the story. I want to be the couple. I don't want the main focus of the story to go anywhere else. I do like, for example, I read a series that is about vampires who are assassins and them falling in love and finding their fated mates. And I like the subplot of them being assassins and them having to like solve problems and all of that. But the couple is still the main driving force of the story. Like, in one of them, for example, the fated mate is homeless, and once the vampire finds him, he wants to keep him safe, and he keeps him safe through killing really bad people. And so you obviously have the plot of him like cleaning up the city and getting rid of these people, but the main reason and the driving factor is the coupling. And that is what I want in my romance. And so, yeah, I realized a lot of what people love in romance books is not what I love in romance books. But there are a lot of romance books out there that are exactly what I want in a romance. And I just never realized, because I feel like those aren't talked about as much because they don't give you as much drama. They don't give you as much to like talk about. Like, they are pretty, like, they often go pretty similarly, which in other genres I would be annoyed about, but in romance it doesn't annoy me at all, because it's always like different characters, even though if they are really similar, it's a new romance. And so, yeah, I like my characters to be really romantic. I don't mind insta love, which I have realized that a lot of people don't love. Give me insta love. I just want them to be happy and give me a lot of spicy scenes. I do like that. I'm not the biggest fan of slow burn. I deal with it if the couple is really like cute together. But if I have to wait through half of the book until they kiss, it's not my biggest. Like, I will read it, but I would prefer for them to kiss a little bit before that. But yeah, there's a lot of romance out there that I do actually like, but it has to be really specific. Also, I've realized that I'm far more liberal with my DNFs in romance. If they do one thing that I cannot get behind, I'm DNFing the book straight away, especially if it's in connection with like spicy scenes, because I have a really like, consent has to be all over the novel. I won't read a story where there is interaction that isn't consensual, like between the couple. Obviously, there can be like a dramatic backstory or things happening, but between the couple, it has to be consensual. Everything otherwise, I won't read it because I don't enjoy that. And so that is like a pretty big thing. And I have DNF'd a couple of novels because I didn't feel like consent was actually able to be given in a situation, for example. And I don't like all of the like where the main couple is like really snippy or really like, I don't know, I want harmony in my couples. I just enjoy the harmony. So yeah, as much as I thought I would never actually read as much romance, I realized there's a lot of romance out there for me that I really, really enjoy. And it all started with Heated Rivalry, which I'm so glad I watched that. I then got my friend to watch it and she loved it as well. And now we're always sending memes to each other about Heated Rivalry. It has become a nice part of my daily interaction. So my feed is still full of Heated Rivalry, which it's kind of funny, but you know, I'm not gonna complain. They are all really attractive. I'm not against seeing attractive people on my feed, let's be honest. And yeah, I'm really thankful that they actually made the series and that the series is as good as it is. Because it has opened up a whole genre to me, which I'm so excited about still. I'm still searching, I'm still looking, and I have a couple of books that I definitely will go out and buy now that I've read them already because I enjoyed them so much. Which I think is actually the good thing with Kindle Unlimited, because obviously it's relatively cheap if you read as much as I do, for like the amount of books I've read on it so far. And I can go back and buy the books if I realize I really love them, which is really good because with romance, I have realized that the blurbs can be kind of misleading because obviously the authors don't want to spoil you the book, and I find it really hard to discern from the blurb if I will like the book or not. So it's pretty good that I can easily DNF the books on Kindle Unlimited, and if I really like them, I can buy them. Like with Heated Rivalry, I bought all of them as ebooks. Not from Amazon, I went to a bookstore for that, like a local German bookstore. They had the ebooks in English, thankfully, but I am still thinking about buying myself a physical copy of Heated Rivalry just because I love the series so much. And yeah, I read a lot of sports romance because of Heated Rivalry, which I enjoyed way more than I thought. Yeah, I have a couple of topics that I would like more romances on than I do like, because one thing I also don't like is, for example, age gaps. I get it with like supernatural beings and vampires and stuff like that. It's a little bit easier, but if I have like a guy who's like 20 and then the other guy is like 45, it's not my... I don't love it, to be honest. Also, all participants need to be in adulthood. Or at least if they are like under 20, they need to be the same age. But I do not really enjoy romances where the characters are under 20, 21. I personally feel weird about that. Obviously, for like teenagers, that's fine. But like, I'm in my 30s. It feels a little bit weird if the main characters are too young. So I do enjoy them to be like at least in like the middle of their 20s. That is a great age for a romance novel. And like, if both characters are in their 40s, I also enjoy that, but I just don't want too big of an age gap in that. And if you have one being a supernatural being, the other one has to be in their middle 20s. If they're younger, it's just too weird for me. Everybody needs to be a consenting adult in my romance novels. The only like kind of romance type that I'm still conflicted about is the really sad romances. Because to be honest, so far I'm reading romance as like a feel-good book. You know, when the day is over and I just want to snuggle up into bed and read something that will make me feel good. That is how I'm reading romance so far. And I've read a couple that had really like sad topics and where the like most part of the book is really about handling PTSD, abuse, all of that comes with that. And whilst I really liked the books, I wasn't sure if I liked them as like a romance book, but they are shelved under romance because technically the main part of the story is still the romance. It's just that often the trauma like makes up a big part of how the romance evolves and how it's played out on the pages. And I kind of have like a love-dislike relationship with that. Not because I dislike the books, but because when I don't want to be sad when I read a romance. It's just weird for me if they are too sad for too long. Yeah. That is something I'm still not, I still like the books, but I still feel weird about it once I finish with the novel. I don't really know what to think about those so far. But yeah, that has been my like a little bit of an overview of my journey into reading romance and actually finding out that I actually really enjoy romance and that I'm not this weird being without feelings that can't even read a romance in a book, because that was something I thought for a long time, that I was just a really cold person, because I couldn't enjoy romance in books. And it just turns out I just had to find the right books, and a lot of people have different taste, which like totally fine, obviously. But it made it hard for me to realize that there's more out there. And so yeah, if you've thought about trying romance and haven't tried romance yet, I would actually say get yourself something like Kindle Unlimited. I guess other companies have similar things, but like if you can just find a subscription for books, either your library or something like Kindle Unlimited, and try romance through that, and then just pick romance books from different types of romance. So like maybe like a mafia romance, a biker romance, a university romance, like pick like different topics of romance and just try them. Because I feel like a lot of the more like, not tame romances, because they can be super spicy, but like a lot of the romances that have a little bit less of a dramatic story, I feel like aren't often talked about online, and so you have to search a little bit more for those. And those were the ones I liked. So yeah, go and look. I'm pretty sure that there will be a romance out there for you. You just have to find it, and once you find one, you're never gonna stop. That is what I've come to accept so far. But yeah, it has been a great journey. I have to say that I have enjoyed every second of it. Even the bad books, even the ones that DNF'd, I am enjoying every second of it, and I'm not ready to stop. So there's a lot of romance reading in my future, which I'm super, super excited about. And yeah, I just kind of wanted to share that because I never really thought I would be at this point, and I'm super excited to be at this point. So yeah, maybe I can inspire you to just try a romance if you haven't yet. And yeah, please leave your opinions about romance books and maybe how you like romance and how you realized you like romance down below. Because obviously we all have a different path, and I kind of find it interesting to see how people realize that they do actually like romance. And yeah, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this little foray into my journey with romance, and hopefully I will see you in the next video. Bye bye!